in a Podcast. We're so glad you're here. We're your hosts, Natasha and Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay.
Happy Sunday.
It is recording day.
We made it to the end of the week, the start of a new week. Do you call Sunday the start of a week or Monday the start of a new week?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that. Probably Monday. Sunday is like the end of the weekend. Monday would be day one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think that's just the working brain in me. I will say when I used to work at the church, though, Sunday was the start of a week for me.
That's fair.
And then we had Mondays off most times, but I don't know why my brain was like, it's the start of a new week. Sunday kicked it off.
Yeah. And being in ministry, as long as I've been around church ministry, that does feel the same too. I also work full time, so it's like a little bit of both where, I'm ending the weekend. We're starting off with church and then going to the work week. So I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm super excited to get into this week's gift. No, it's not a gift. It's a love language. But we're talking about gifts.
It is a love language, yes.
And so on that vein of thought, what has been your most favorite gift you've received?
I would have to say my grandmother, my Nana on my mom's side, my mom's Bible. It has all of her notes and it's quite literally falling apart. It's just, she had like one of those nice ones that was engraved with her name on it. And it's the purple leather bound is coming apart. So it's like the foam that's in between the pages is exposed because she just used it so much. And the pages are paper thin. And I just love it because it has all of her notes and her thoughts as she was reading the Bible. And sometimes there's little prayers in there. It's just really special.
That is such a wonderful gift to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel very honored that my family thought of me to give it to. It meant a lot to me.
Yeah, for sure. When my grandfather passed away, a different family member of mine got his Bible. And I remember, what a great piece of somebody to have with you, because it carries so much depth and it's like really a piece of who they are.
Yeah. Their thoughts. Yeah.
The little prayers that they write or the notes that they take down. Yeah, that would be pretty hard to level up with.
I agree. I don't think anything will beat that.
Receiving gifts. Well, you know that I have a hard time picking favorites of anything. Favorite movies, songs, books,
colors.
Colors. It changes on the daily. So I don't know that I could like pinpoint one favorite, like one gift over the other, just because I think that they're all great. But last year I will say this one was pretty high up there because it really meant a lot to me. But last year I was gone for 5 days and my husband rallied the troops quite literally and had an army of people do like this mini extreme makeover for our house. And you were there for part of that, texting me about pillows for your office couch. That was not for an office couch at all. And so when I came home, our house had been completely renovated, and the amount of time and effort that it took from all of the people that were involved in that project, and knowing that like my husband knew how I felt about where we live currently and trying to make that better. And it was just a lot. So I was very, very overwhelmed, and words can't describe how grateful I was for that gift. And it will forever be a core memory. And it was a core memory for my children because they bring it up quite often. And they're like, hey, remember that time we did that when Dad fixed the house for you? So that's probably one of my favorite gifts.
What a special gift too. That's so awesome.
It was huge.
I love it.
For sure. Well, I guess,
I was going to say, I think that's a great way to jump into today's episode, but I think you are going to say that. These are the joys of birth. I love it.
So this chapter was not the one I was expecting to be next. I thought we were talking about acts of service. And so when I read the chapter, I was like, that's not the same.
It's different.
It's very different, but it was still a really good one. I struggle with gifts, I feel like, giving them and receiving them sometimes, but I do like receiving gifts from my husband, and he does a really good job of that. But what were some of your initial thoughts of receiving gifts?
I am terrible at receiving gifts. I am always grateful and thankful for the person who went out of their way, and I do appreciate them. But I told you a little bit about this. I just struggle with the concept of gift giving because it was never used in a good way. Growing up, it was more of a things are bad right now, and I'm going to give you this to make it better, but I'm not going to deal with the bad that's happening around you. I'm not going to apologize for my actions. I'm just going to smooth over by this next big thing. And it was just materialistic stuff. So giving for me, when it is somebody else's love language, which I'm running into right now, is very hard for me to receive it and understand it. So this really challenged how I think about gift giving from another person's perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. I understand, not to the same level that you're speaking to, but I do understand, like, I struggle with giving the gifts because in my mind, like, is this silly? Is it going to be a waste of money and effort because they don't really like it? Because growing up, I saw a lot of times, like when you're a kid, right, you give gifts to your parents or to people around you, and they're usually like silly colorings from class or something you made at, like, for a project, and they don't necessarily have any money value, but you did it out of love for the person. And so I often saw those go in the trash growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that is part of it, or like as a teenager growing up, giving gifts, and like it was a necklace or a nice bracelet or something, but it was never worn in public. It was just kind of like, oh, thanks, and then just sat on the shelf. And so I don't know if that's part of the reason why I struggle to give gifts. I don't mind receiving them, but I struggle with giving them because in my head there's this like psychological like, you know, barrier of because I hearing all of these different reasons why it's not a good idea, like, don't do it, that's silly. And that's the part that I struggle with. So this chapter was really good to see, like, if someone in my life does like receiving gifts, why that's important. And we'll get into that, but it was a good reminder that not everybody thinks the same way.
I would agree. Yeah. I struggle with receiving. I used to struggle with giving for that same reason that I mentioned earlier, because I would question myself if I was being authentic in my gift giving. But I genuinely do like to give to people. I feel like it kind of like pulls into some of the other love languages, acts of service that we haven't gotten into, right? And quality time where you're paying attention to the things that the person likes through those quality conversations. So I feel like they kind of mesh together. And I do love those moments. But yeah, it was really a struggle for me for a long time, was asking myself, like, is my heart being authentic in my gift giving, or am I just doing it because it's a mechanism that I learned from a young age? That's what you do if you care about someone.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the chapter, they talk about like the different ways that gifts are usually a visual sign of love. Like, you know, like you trade rings at a wedding, or like friendship bracelets. Do you remember those? Did you ever make friendship bracelets?
I do. Yes. Yeah. And they came back. Like, I don't really follow Taylor Swift, but there was a moment on TikTok where the whole world was all about the Eras tour when she was doing that, and they were exchanging friendship bracelets through the whole Eras tour. And it was just like this visual sign of unity through Taylor Swift. But that's, I mean, yeah, physical representation.
Yeah. And one of the things that stood out to me that they said too is that usually those symbols have some sort of emotional value. And
Mhm.
how true is that, right? Like when my boys were much smaller, they still do it occasionally now, but when they were smaller, they would pick flowers and bring them in. And you and I know those flowers are going to die in 5.5 minutes from them picking them and
Yeah.
bring them inside. But
Right.
it doesn't erase the fact that my heart was very full of joy when their little chubby toddler hands reached out and said, "Mom, here's this flower," right? And
Mhm.
I'm just grateful for that like visual aspect of it, that if they give me a written letter that all of the words are spelled wrong and the drawing is silly, that doesn't have any value, but it does have an emotional value to me because they took
Right.
their time to write this note. And the same can be true in friendship. We don't have to give something elaborate for it to have emotional value to the two of us. And I
Mhm.
think last Valentine's I found a taco stuffy that had a hot
Mhm.
sauce bottle, and I gave it to you because we love tacos. And so I saw it and
Yeah.
I thought of you and I was like, Lindsay needs this. And it's silly and probably doesn't have a lot of value, but emotionally it meant something to me to give that to you because, that's just something that we both enjoy.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with you. And the book kind of touched on the like child gift giving concept. And I really like that they were like, it's a foundation of love. Like gift giving at a young age is just something naturally like what your boys would do for you. It just came naturally. Nobody taught them to pick a flower and give it to mom. That's just
Right.
what they did. Right. And
Yeah.
so I think that that just goes to show that like it's built inside of us for a reason.
Yeah. And it is interesting that even from a young age, we're naturally driven to do it. Like you said, no one
Mhm.
teaches us to go pick a flower for someone or pick up that rock that's in the shape of a heart. I have one of those sitting on my windowsill that my son found and brought it inside. I was like, "Here, mom, this is for you." And like those are just little things, but again, they're the symbols of a deeper connection that we have with someone and that
Mhm.
love that we share.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, like you were saying with the taco stuffy, I think it shows that it can represent the attention that we give to our friends. We see the value in what they enjoy and what they appreciate. And for me, like, I love to pay attention to people's orders when I'm with them a lot of times, like, oh, what kind of coffee did they just order? And so, like, I would know for you right now, you like the pistachio at Starbucks. So I could probably guess that I would get you probably a shaken espresso with pistachio in it, like something of that
Fun.
nature. But it's just like finding those little things. It doesn't have to be extravagant
Mhm.
and big. It can just be the simple, fine little things that you know a person's going to like.
And I was thinking about that when we were prepping for this, and like, um, it was last week or a couple weeks ago. I knew that you were having a rough week, and I really wanted to be able to send you flowers, but I couldn't send you flowers like from a florist. But I know that you like the wooden flowers, and so I was like, oh, I really should pick those up so that you could have them for your desk. And that's just one of those, again, like those little things that aren't the same as, like we're not spending lots of money. It's not about the dollar value, but it's about noticing. And I think in a world where everything is really fast and we're pretty consumed with us, like there's a lot of,
Yeah.
hear me when I say this. I'm not downing self-care, but in a world where it's like self-care is important, and that's true to some extent, but when we become so inwardly focused on ourselves that we're not aware of what's happening to the people around us, that can be a
Mm.
detriment to us. So when we're taking time to, notice our coffee order, or like you said, and pay attention to, that favorite color or the sweater that she picked up, was like, oh, that's so cute. And then you bring it to her the next day, uh, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff really does go a long way. And I think that it helps deepen our relational experiences.
I agree. Yeah. And I think that there is that fine line of self care and being self aware, but not becoming selfish in that and still being mindful of the people around you. And it's okay to have boundaries. and to take care of yourself. But also, you can do that while still noticing when someone else is struggling, or what they ordered for their coffee, or, making sure that you're spending that time with them to make them feel seen or heard.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I really enjoyed that they talked about, because this is huge too, is um, the value of your presence. Because
Mm,
sometimes in our life, we face times or seasons or difficult things that we face that there aren't words for, but there is time to just show up. And that's all we need. We don't need another gift. We don't need another, you know, bag of chocolate, but we do need someone to just say, I see you. And I know like this is hard and I'm here for you. And you can say that in words
yeah.
or just being there.
Yeah. And I know I've talked about this before, but there are a couple of instances that I can think of where somebody's presence meant more to me than any physical value of a gift that they could have given. Like, I talked about my childhood best friend who showed up to my grandmother's funeral when she passed away. And that was on my birthday. And probably one of the hardest things was burying somebody that I considered my rock and my safety net on my birthday and having family around me who I love. And I know that their intentions were good, singing happy birthday or saying happy birthday to me, but her presence holding my hand and after all was said and done saying, okay, let's go. Let's just get out of here and let you have a minute. And we don't even have to talk. We'll just sit. And that's what we did. We went and got ice cream at Dunkin'. Well, our Dunkin' was a Baskin Robbins combo. And we just sat and just enjoyed the presence of each other for a minute without having to hear happy birthday one more time on that day. And then
And
the other one for me, like, I was just going to say that I don't have family here, right? Like, I've kind of had to make my village, and the people that are here that I'm close to, you guys are my family, the ones I see on the regular basis. And when I had my gallbladder out, like, I remember calling you and be like, I'm driving myself to the hospital because I don't know what's going on right now. I was in so much pain, and I remember feeling kind of scared, like, am I going to pass out driving? Because
yeah,
that's how much pain I was in. And you just stayed on the phone and talked to me. And then you came to the actual hospital and sat with me. And there were no
yeah,
answers. There's like no resolve. Just, hey, it was your gallbladder, but we don't see anything that we can do anything about it. Just be
yeah,
careful what you eat. See you later. But then that was on Wednesday. And then on Friday, I was back in the ER overnight. And my friend, who I call my main mom, she sat with me at the hospital till 2 a.m. until I was like, I kicked her out because they were keeping me overnight. I'm like, you don't need to stay here. And I was on a lot of hospital drugs at that point. So I was in and out of it. But then I ended up getting my gallbladder out the next morning, and they were right there to like take me home and make sure I was okay and in bed. And like, it's those moments of people just showing up in the physical that's a huge gift to me, being able to like have your presence there and not feel alone in those moments, because that was scary.
yeah. Those moments are scary. And
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of what friendship looks like, right? Like it's showing up for each other when it's not convenient and it's 2 a.m., but you're scared and you're in the ER for the second time in the same week, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of letting people into our everyday life and not just showing the parts that are pretty and actually really doing life together that allows for those moments because that's when it happens. It's at 2 a.m. and it's on the way to the ER. And um, I can think back to when I was having my first son and you came and hung out in the waiting room and that like meant the world to me. And knowing that you were there and you sat with my family um and so like you said, having people there that are like family in those moments is a really huge gift, and it's something that I never want to take for granted because it's not always the case, but when we do have it, I treasure it
Yeah.
because I know like what that takes and what it means.
Right. I think that sometimes we underestimate the power of our presence, and that a lot of times it can be the calm in chaos. And sometimes that's all people need. And we come up with these big elaborate ways to show up for them when really we don't have to. Like you said about the flowers, like if you can't afford to send the flowers, can you afford to sit? And sometimes that's all people need. The flowers are a nice gesture, but they're going to wilt away in a couple of days. But if you sitting with them, that's going to be a memory. And the flowers will be a memory too. I don't want to downgrade something like that, because if that's how you can show up and you can't physically show up, that's great too. But if you can't do that, but you can physically show up, there's something about that physical presence that's really going to bring peace and calm in moments that they need it.
For sure.
Yeah. I think it helps you feel seen and supported too. Just knowing that someone's there, whether they send flowers or they sit with you or they give you a phone call, just being able to have that person's thought with you.
So as we're like talking through it, applying that to friendship, this is kind of an easy one, because gifts go to everybody. And I know something I'm trying to work on, at least for like birthdays and stuff, because usually birthdays are last minute, because I like time got by and I'm like, oh my goodness, their birthdays this week, right? And but trying to be more intentional about like what I'm giving as a gift for a birthday, not just like, oh hey, I got you the gift card because I forgot, right? And that's
Right.
usually my MO, just because I struggle with giving gifts, but I want to be more intentional to like notice the little things and try to show up in that way. And maybe it isn't a gift card, but maybe it could be, something different, and at least try to put more intention behind it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely try to be more alert and aware of like what a person wants or says, like what's on their wish list. I'm not always great at it. I do tend to give gift cards a lot more.
I do it all the time.
Like I think it challenges us to give in some ways too, because it's like a visible and often tangible way to like show that we care about a person. And if somebody's gift is receiving gifts, like what better way than to find the little items and little tokens that they're going to appreciate.
And written notes too. And this kind of goes hand in hand with words of affirmation, because if words of affirmation is your primary love language, if you receive a note from a friend, that note isn't getting put in the trash can. It's probably put in a keepsake box or in a very special place, because when you write down how someone has impacted your life, or the value that you have placed on their friendship or anything like that, then those things mean so much. And so that doesn't cost a lot. You can buy a pack of cards for, a lot of money, and not that much money, and be able to give written notes very often. So, or not even necessarily often, but just you can write them to several people. And
I like that. And it's something that you said, it's words of affirmation if you're doing that, and also receiving gifts. I think it's important, because we really haven't touched on this a lot, that these 5 love languages, just because one is your top doesn't mean that you don't need them all. Because it's what like balances us, right? So if you haven't taken the quiz, or if you have, you've noticed that there's percentages.
Yeah, that's right.
But there is this balance of, okay, acts of service is my top one and receiving gifts is my bottom one. But you know what? It still counts. It's still in there, and it's still going to do something. Receiving gifts is not my top. I actually do think that it's my bottom if I looked back at it. But like, you gave me that gift of that taco, and that meant the world to me that year. And so it does fit a hole inside of you at some point.
Yeah. And I will say, your love languages change over time. And so if this is your first experience with it, great, run with it. But check back in like 3 to 5 years and see if it hasn't shifted. And that's part of human growth, right? Like, as people, we're always growing, or I hope that we are always growing. And so when we are growing as people, sometimes our needs and desires shift too. And so, my top love language used to be words of affirmation, and I needed that. I needed to hear it. I needed to receive it. And now, acts of service is at the top. and words of affirmation is at the very bottom, which is still wild to me. But I also hadn't taken the test in a long time. So, you know, it's not to say, and like you, to your point, we can all benefit from all of them. It's just a matter of what percentage are you for some of them, because it might be higher, but that doesn't mean that you only need that one, because all of them will fill your tank either way.
Yeah. And if you find that you're like, at least for me, if I feel like I'm lacking in my cup being filled, it's important for me to kind of reflect and be like, okay, what am I not getting right now? Because maybe mine is acts of service too. And maybe I've been high up on the acts of service, but maybe I've just felt really, really insecure, and someone's word of affirmation that I'm doing okay is going to boost me up that day. Because sometimes it is just a seasonal thing too. Like maybe you're walking
Yeah.
through something really, really hard and you just need that confirmation that, you think you're not doing so great, but you are. Or maybe you need that gift to remind you that that person's there. So I do think it ebbs and flows on, what you're walking through and where you are in life, like you said, for sure.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with that more.
But with gift giving, so we live in a world right now where money can be tight. I know for me that I have to be mindful about what I'm spending at the store. And if I want to give somebody a gift, I have to think about how is it impacting my day to day, like my bills, my wallet, and all of those things. So I think that that's why I've said quite a few times today that it doesn't have to be extravagant. So, what are some ways that you can give gifts? We talked about notes.
Yep.
I think we are in the cell phone era. So, most of us probably have smartphones. Maybe you're out and about and doing something and you see like this really cool picture and you know that your friend would really enjoy this spot. So, you send them a picture and say, hey, thinking of you.
Yeah.
Thought you'd really enjoy it here, or got a coffee today and just we should check this place out sometime.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this does cost money, and that's okay. But I was also thinking too, in the world of, so we have access to so much, which is great in a lot of ways, but sending somebody like a meal with DoorDash or Walmart delivery, have the groceries delivered for a meal, or a lot of places deliver now, so it doesn't even have to be those stores, but the ease and the access of that, like to have that sent and be like, hey, I thought of you, wanted to take dinner off your plate so you don't have to think about it, have a great night, like that lightens the load so much, because how often do we text each other going, what are you making for dinner? Like, what are we eating?
Yes. Yes. No, it's true. And I'm going to go back on the gift card thing a little bit because I just did that. I don't know what this family eats, but I know somebody who's just like, they've been going through a rough patch and they have a larger family. And so I just sent them a DoorDash gift card. I was like, hey, dinner's on me.
Yeah.
And like they just wrote back and said, thank you so much. And yeah, they still have to make the decision on where to go, but financially that wasn't a burden that they had to think about. They didn't have to think about cooking or going to the grocery store and getting the ingredients to make their family a meal. They
Yep.
could just breathe for a minute and cook. And like, I think that those moments too can be so special for people. So maybe you're like, I don't know what they eat. Just in the gift card.
Okay.
It's okay.
It's really great. And I've been in
Yeah.
a like when that was one of the things that were that was really helpful for us when I was going through my miscarriage. We had friends who were traveling the world at the time, and they were in, not the world, the US, but they were in Florida, and they had pizza delivered to our house that day. And like, I still remember and I'm still grateful, right? Because they took the time out of their trip and their family memories they were making to recognize that we were in a really hard moment, and they provided lunch dinner for us. And that will
Yeah.
always be a treasured moment in my heart, because the fact that somebody would do that at that season of my life, I didn't understand. I was like, what do you mean you're sending me dinner? Like, thank you. And and now it's a lot more natural and I understand it. And I try to do that for other people too. Like, hey, let me take that off your plate. I'll provide dinner tonight, or we'll set up a whole meal train and we'll get several people to make meals for you. Because again, regardless of a gift, whether or not you're in a place where you need it, like having people show up for you really matters.
Yeah. You sent me Gatorade and I think soup when I had the stomach flu one time. And that literally, like,
Popsicles.
I didn't want to drive to the store and get those things. And I had nobody else to do it at the time. So those things like do mean a lot, even in the smallest of gestures in the moment.
Yeah. So this week we want to challenge you to give some gifts, maybe be okay with receiving some gifts. And, again, if you haven't taken the test yet, we encourage you to do it. We'll link that in our description of the episode so you have access to it. And we'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the 5 love languages and how they can apply to friendship. And send us what your thoughts are on what your love language is, and maybe it's gifts for you. Until next time, we'll see you next week.
That's a wrap on this episode of Two Main Friends in a Podcast. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. You can also send us an email at twomainfriends@gmail.com. And as always, leave us a review wherever you're listening.